You look good, man.
Thank you so much. So do you.
Yeah, it's good. I've enjoyed being out in California. We're here at Windmark Studios, down in Santa Monica. I think this studio, this was a suggestion from you or your camp. Have you recorded here?
Yeah, we were in here yesterday and the day before.
Wow.
It's
Doing what?
actually a real studio.
What were you doing in here?
I'm writing some new things.
Some new things.
Yeah.
Not for Coldplay though.
Well, maybe. Sometimes, as kind of a busman's holiday, I like to try and pretend to be Rihanna, and so sometimes I just come and try and write Rihanna songs.
Just on your own. She's not even in the vicinity.
She was not in the vicinity, no.
No.
I don't think she even knows that I did it. This would be an exclusive, they may not even get to her.
Do you get asked a lot by people to contribute words and melodies because you have such a strong sense of that, and people are always looking for talented writers, you know?
From time to time. I think the reason I particularly am drawn to her is because her voice is so perfect, and it's so different to me that it's like going outside of yourself but still doing the thing I love to do.
But every time that you've written a song, I think, that has either been, the intention's been to give it to somebody, or in fact it has gone to someone, whether it's Embrace or Johnny Cash, which is both sides of that coin, or Rihanna, who you have collaborated with, on your music, you do have an ability to be able to kind of put yourself in their music somewhat, it's an adaptable process. It sounds like you, but I think you obviously enjoy kind of the fantasy of writing for someone else.
Yes, well, it is often a fantasy because, and case in point, one of the things we came up with yesterday we'll keep. So sometimes it's like there's a liberation from thinking from someone else's viewpoint, where where I can say things that I might not say, but then we end up keeping that song. That happened with that song Paradise.
Yeah.
And it's happened a few times.
The intention of Paradise was to write for someone else, and then it ended up being a Coldplay song. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Was that one for Rihanna, and then that's why you kind of brought her into the song?
No, that was actually came from being asked about the X Factor,
right?
Winner's song.
Wow. So
then I played it to Will, our drummer, and he said, "No, we'll have that." And if Will ever says that, then I listen.
Yeah, Will seems to have that role to play in the band, apart from being, as we've established many times before, most improved every record, except on this one. Very little of Will in this record. No? He does have that kind of honesty gene, doesn't he? He seems to be very straight.
Well, the more that time goes on, the more I appreciate the chemistry of our group, the four of us, and then Phil, our secret creative boss, because it becomes apparent what everyone's strengths are, and Will's is really kind of an anchoring. When I think of him, I think of something very heavy and granite-like, in a great way, like the base of a statue, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. And
without that, the thing topples. And so, while sometimes we can fall out over, he would sometimes like a darker sound, and I'm more like, let's make it more like Blurred Lines. Ultimately, that chemistry is what keeps us together.
So if we're talking about the chemistry of the band, and we've never spoken about this, and I suppose, almost 15 years on from your first record, it's a good time to talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Johnny. I mean, what have you learned about Johnny in relation to the band and this chemistry?
Well, Johnny is really so sweet, and I'd say he and Phil are the sort of antidotes to any trouble that might arise between the rest of us. Johnny's only lost his temper with me once, which is really incredible.
Can you tell us what it was about?
All I remember, that this was about 2004, he said, I'm sick of your shit. That was the only time ever in the long time that we've been best friends, and he has just this peaceful thing, and then quietly he always writes the best bits of the song. Whenever he still has the ability to really elevate a song and make me think, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that riff there.
As a guitar player, I think all great guitar players who work with great singers, in particular that dynamic, they are able to support the emotional resonance of a song in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can wrap you up when you're vulnerable, or they can charge alongside you when you're leading someone into battle, fall on the floor. It's so important, isn't it? And on this record, which we will talk about in depth because I love it, Ghost Stories.
Thanks.
It does feel like the whole band feel like they're kind of hugging you in a way and surrounding you, supporting you.
You're going to make me cry. That's kind of we're very, very tight at the moment. I know that I'm the one that is the front man and the one that's on the magazines and stuff, but of everything we've been blessed with, what we constantly come back to is this relationship, because none of us are prodigies or virtuosos, and we've seen lots of bands come and go in the time that we've been around, and we've seen the ones that have lasted, and we've worked really hard to communicate with each other in a way that brings the best out of everybody, and that started when we started working with Brian Eno. He would say you really have to respect the chemistry between you, and I don't know if we ever told you, there was a time when he kicked me out of the band for a few weeks to get everybody else's confidence up, because at that time I could be quite strong-minded in terms it has to sound like this. And so he taught us a bit more flexibility and let everyone get to the end of their idea before any judgment is passed.
Amazing. I mean, for someone, and don't worry, Guy, we will get to you. I'm desperate to know what Chris thinks of you as well. But for you to be in a band as one quarter of this unit, to be told by someone with the experience and wisdom and I suppose your respect, like Brian Eno, to say you need to step aside, how did that make you feel at the time?
Well, I was pleased. This was after our third album, X and Y, where we lost our way a little bit. Phil wasn't around, he was sick, and I was famous in like tabloid stuff, and we were coming off the back of a Rush of Blood to the Head. It was just our record company was all over the place. It was all like share prices, and it was a very wonderful learning period, but at the time it was chaos. And so when Brian came in, I was so grateful, because it felt like we had a teacher. I was not aware that you could keep learning after college finished, before I met him, and now that's all we care about, is what can we learn next, how can we improve, how can we as people and as musicians. But so when he came in, it was like, oh, thank you. It was like a father figure coming in and saying, you're a very talented band, but here's how we should rearrange the furniture.
It's understandable in a way that someone of your age at that time would feel like, well, what is there left to learn? I've released my debut album, Parachutes. It's been received with this huge level of critical acclaim and success. Rush of Blood to the Head was a huge, enormous global success. I mean, that kind of, that speed at which that happens can throw you off your feet, can't it?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change a single thing, but I'm so glad that at a certain point, and we were also having all the regular troubles that you read about in bands' biographies. We were having all of that, and
too early for a behind the music special, man.
It is too early, and also we don't think that talking about that stuff is very glamorous. So, but all of that stuff was going on, and that's when we bought our own little place and really tried to reconnect as friends. And we had the guidance of Brian, and then this guy Marcus Dravs as well, and then Phil came back in glorious Technicolor again, and
you survived it.
Every album since then we've been kind of getting closer and closer, and everyone's role within the band is becoming more respected by the others.
So what is it about Guy?
Well, Guy is the sort of hi-fi. He, for example, on Ghost Stories, he's the one that really saw all the mixes home and the mastering with Spike Stent, and
Guy.
He really cares about the detail of and he. So for a long time, I've been begging the band, please could someone else start a song, because I've been given that gift from the universe or from God or whatever you want to believe in, that ideas for songs get sent to me through wherever they get sent from. And then I take them to the rest of the band, and then we layer it up, and that's how we do it. And for a long time I've been saying, Guy, I know that you write music sometimes on your own. Please, is there any way that you would, give us some of it? He's like, no, you won't like it. And then one day last February, he very quietly came over to me in our studio and said, "Oh, Chris, we did this jam yesterday that I think you should listen to." And he did, and it was the beginning of that song Magic that we just put out.
Yeah.
And then the lyrics and everything just came. I was so grateful, and it made me so happy, and that was kind of a symbol of the album as a whole, of like, we'll help each other out here.
That was the first point that the record began?
No, there were lots of songs,
yeah.
but that was the first point where I felt like, okay, everyone is invested in this.
Yes.
Everyone knows what we're trying to do, which is go a bit more personal and a bit smaller, and
yeah. Well,
they came to me with that, and that's when I felt like, okay, we're on exactly the same page. Because if they'd come in with like a big prod rock 9-minute bass solo, I would have been like, that's
can you imagine after you'd begged them for songs, if you had to turn around and go, yeah, that's not going to work.
I don't know if they'll ever come in with song. I think they're shy about that, but and also the way we work, it's a fun way to work, and I'm always amazingly surprised and reinvigorated about a song when Guy puts his part on and Johnny and Will, it improves each step of the way, and that's why we share all our writing credits, because each part is so valuable.
I love that, as well. For those people that are watching this right now, it's very important in music that musicians get paid, which is harder and harder these days because music has become a free currency for most people. You can't tell a kid to pay for it now. They just won't understand. They'll be like, what? So when you break up your publishing and how you do that, it can become difficult if artists or bands decide to do that according to who did what lyric and what line, what musical note. And I always think that the greatest stories, and there are cases like yourself, like Coldplay, where you do go in with this equal approach.
It's basically equals 40, 20, 20, 20. That's how we do it.
Amazing.
I don't know if we ever told anyone that, but that's how we do it. Everything else is 25, 25, 25, 25.
Yeah, amazing. Let's talk about this amazing record, Ghost Stories, which to me kind of is encapsulated by everything we've talked about already, which is, the chemistry of the band coming together as we've established, the support which you need on a record like this for the subject matter. It feels like it's a companion piece in terms of the nature of it with parachutes, so it kind of feels like it's kind of could be sonically a bit of an extension, but modern with what you've learned with Brian and Marcus and John and all these amazing collaborators. And for me, when I pressed play on this, it felt like this was a journey that began at the start of Viva La Vida, when John Hopkins first stepped into the camp and gave you a sense of ambience, that there's beauty in that you can create drama, you don't just have to start.
No, and this is actually our sound engineer, Dan, makes synth sounds, and then sometimes when I'm demoing before showing the rest of the band, he'll show me some sounds that he's made, and this was one of them that...
Amazing.
Yeah. And then actually my daughter is singing a little bit in there as well. Yeah. So it's the whole idea of that was just a sort of idea of togetherness through life's challenges.
Yes. So you're waiting for a lyric when this starts, man, and you're waiting for how are you going to contextualize this first lyric, and it's just astounding.
Oh, thanks.
I love this lyric. Is that honest? Was that the case when you wrote that lyric? Were you having a sleepless night?
Yes, well, I've always had sleepless nights. The idea of Ghost Stories for me was, how do you let the things that happened to you in the past, your ghosts, how do you let them affect your present and your future? Because there was a time when I was feeling like they were going to drag me down and kind of ruin my life and the lives of those around me. And I was very lucky to meet a really good Sufi teacher who started to introduce me to the idea of, if you sit with your experiences and the things you've been through, they alchemize. And at the time he said that, I was like, I don't really know what that means, but I trusted that it would work. And the more that I was learning about that, the more music just started flowing through. And so most of the lyrics on this album, although they were edited and really, finessed, are very much like they're just flowing through.
I wondered if you were getting out of the way a little bit and not sitting down consciously going, this is going to be the record we're going to make or I'm going to write about, whether you were just sort of getting out of the way.
No, so those lyrics just came out in one go.
For this song?
Yeah.
This song, for me, and I'm going to read these lyrics, which I never do, but I have to, because it's just unbelievable when you put it in context. I think of you, I haven't slept. I think I do, but I don't forget. My body moves, goes where I will. Is that correct?
Where goes where I will, as in terms of where I want it to.
Yes. But though I try, my heart stays still. You're killing me now. I mean, because this is no matter how much you try to move on, that sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Right.
And then at the end, to sum it up and say, this, I guess, is to tell you you're chosen out from the rest. I mean, this in terms of as an opening song on a record. As a listener, you've been drawn in.
Right. Thanks, Zane. That's very kind.
And it goes on, through the record, and you were completely compelled throughout. Did you know when you finished this song that, and you listen back to it, that it would start the record? Did it start to take shape? Yeah,
100%. Because I feel like I'm 37. The rest of us are 36, 35. I was like, for one reason or another, everything going on in real life and the way that we see the world, it's like there's no point in being anything other than completely open and honest.
Yes.
And so when that song came out, I was like, oh God, that's it. That's just saying, well, it doesn't matter. Some of you won't like this, and I'm never going to be as lyrically adept as Jay-Z or Morrissey. But I can sing what I really think, or what I'm learning, or what I'm feeling, and so, in a way, I'm happy that we put that there, because it puts me at ease with, like, it's okay. I don't really mind what anyone says about this album, because it's just the truth. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's as true as my nose. And so some people have real problem with my nose. What can I do?
Yeah, it work. This album has clear themes, man. It has clear themes. It's a heartbreaking record, but it's also a hopeful record.
Right.
I think. Was it important to you that there wasn't a wallowing in your past or a wallowing in what you were going through when you wrote these songs?
Yeah.
There was hope throughout.
Well, there were lots of songs written, but the way that we and I wanted to put it together was to be the journey from looking at everything you're going through in your life, be it good or bad or whatever, and thinking, am I going to run away from it? Am I going to blame for it? Am I going to deny it? Am I going to self-medicate? Or is there a way that by really opening yourself right up to it, that you might actually get to a more joyful place? Because I don't know if it's an English thing or a religious guilt thing, but up to a certain point in my life I was not completely vulnerable, and it caused some problems. If you don't let love really in, then you can't really give it back. And it's so for me, what Ghost Stories means to me is like, you've got to open yourself up to love, and if you really do, of course it'll be painful at times, but then it will be great at some point. You have to trust the universe, and so by the end of the record, it's getting to like a more things are going to be okay.
So it's an album that traces the lesson that you had to learn in order to move on.
Well, I think in life everyone needs to be broken in some way. There's a Japanese art form called kintsukuroi, where they smash a piece of pottery but then put it back together with gold. And I think everyone in their life goes through challenges, whether it's love or money or kids or illness, and certain poets, there's like the poet Rumi, there's this writer called Viktor Frankl. If you read their work, they talk about, like, you have to really not run away from that stuff. But
someone said to me once, man, they were like, I was going through, tough time. I was going through a broken time. And they said to me, I said, I just want to go back to the way things were, And he said, there is no going back.
Yeah.
You can never go back. So you can either stand still and just suffer, or you can plow on through.
Yeah. I think it's just life throws these colourful challenges at you. And this is not to say I've suffered, because suffering is a very different thing.
But in your own way.
No, because people are going through real crazy stuff. This is just to say that everyone in their life is given challenges that you either meet or you don't. And what we decided to do on Ghost Stories was to really be honest about it and say, okay, this is what's been happening. And by the time there's a song called A Sky Full of Stars, that's like, okay, just approach everything with love and see what happens. Don't worry too much.
Did you talk to your family and to your loved ones about this record and the songs you were writing as you were writing them? Did you feel that you were compelled to do that?
Well, they all hear everything as it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was the reaction to some of these songs and some of these lyrics?
Colourful.
There's a song called Magic, obviously, which people know as a single.
Yeah.
And what I really love about this is even though, again, it's one of those heartbreaking songs where you're you're celebrating what was, you're singing with this smile on your face almost. It's kind of a joyous performance in a strange way.
Well, it is. This is the thing. That my point to you is, although it starts off seeming like a heartbreak record, it's actually not. It's a joyful realization.
Yes.
That you can't escape what life's going to throw at you. So just enjoy it. Like when you go to the gym and you're...
No, I don't know about that, but thanks.
You look great. And it's like, okay, I have to do an hour on the treadmill.
Yeah.
And you're looking for any excuse not to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to do it. I feel a bit sick. Or, I'm late. But then after you do it, you're like, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
That's what the album is. It's basically 42 minutes on an emotional treadmill.
We had no idea you were making a record. Was that important? That there was no kind of hint that you weren't in a magazine or an online magazine currently in the studio?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Was it important that you had the space to create away from all of us?
No, I don't mind. One thing I'm learning is I don't mind what anyone thinks. It's okay. If someone thinks we're making a record, if someone thinks we're the best band, the worst band, someone thinks we're this, we're that, it's okay. You've
been known as somebody who's done interviews and people have read them or watched them or whatever, and it's been clear in the past, and you've got to this point now, but that used to be obviously a problem, and you said that that you were concerned about how people reacted to answers of interviews, and I mean we've had conversations after interviews where you said, did that come across okay? What do I la la la?
Yeah.
What was the turning point for you whereby you started to let that go?
The wonderful people around you start to be affected by your insecurity. And it's something that I think a lot of English people have, and sometimes it takes a trauma to get rid of it. In terms of, we have a humility or an insecurity about a lot of, I've known you a long time and you're right. I don't often say, this is exactly what we wanted to do and it sounds really good.
Yeah.
Because I would have felt like that was arrogant. Whereas now I feel like, just tell the truth. So in this instance I feel like, you know what? This is exactly what we wanted to make, and for some people it will really be important.
Yeah.
Other people, that's okay. You can listen to something else or play Xbox.
Because it's not going to be your last record. And it is what it is right now.
No, it isn't going to be our last one, but so you're saying what changed? And it's what changed is a certain point that insecurity and stuff doesn't make any sense, and it affects your loved ones because they feel like,
Is that what happened?
In terms of what?
In terms of the breakdown of your relationship, the subject matter of this album.
Well, this is about. I wouldn't use the word breakdown. This is more of just a realization about trying to grow up, basically. And that, like I said, if you don't open yourself up, then you can't appreciate the wonder outside. So you can be with someone very wonderful and because of your own issues, I don't want to get too personal.
Sure.
Because of your own issues, you cannot let that be celebrated in the right way. And it's it's filling me. Yeah.
So let's talk about...
No, we can keep going, man. I want to get the answer to this really right.
It's going great, and as long as you're comfortable,
I'm comfortable. I just yeah, you know what I'm saying. What changed for me is I don't want to go through life being scared of it, being scared of love, being scared of rejection, being scared of failure. You know, ever since our band came out, we've been a very polarizing group because we do a certain thing very well, and we don't sing God Save the Queen. We're just not that. That's not our idea of rock and roll, and that's brilliant. That's just not what we are. And you know, about 2 years ago, I was just like, I'm a mess really, because I can't enjoy the thing that we're good at,
God,
and I can't enjoy the great things around me. What changed for me is I don't want to go through life being scared of it, being scared of love, being scared of rejection, being scared of failure. You know, ever since our band came out, we've been a very polarizing group because we do a certain thing very well, and we don't sing God Save the Queen. We're just not that. That's not our idea of rock and roll, and that's brilliant. That's just not what we are. And you know, about 2 years ago, I was just like, I'm a mess really, because I can't enjoy the thing that we're good at, God, and I can't enjoy the great things around me. So it's like, I've got to not blame anyone else and like make some changes.
Were there times when you felt like, you know, I chose the wrong path in life because this is so painful for me?
No, it's not painful. It's awesome.
But I mean, when you were going through it, you couldn't enjoy it. That sounds like pain to me. Like, to be in a position where you're playing these huge stadiums and you're enjoying all this moment, but you're racked with this insecurity for one reason.
Or it's more like, God, I don't deserve to be here.
Right, but that's the same.
But I'm sure
thing.
we all have that.
Of course. But not all of us are on stage in front of 60,000 people on a nightly basis.
No.
And I suppose what I'm trying to ask is, like, during those moments that aren't now, when we establish that you're in a great place, you know, because I've been there.
Right.
A lot of people watching this, so you know, are watching this going, oh, thank God, man, because I know what he's singing about and I know what he's talking about. It's universal, and if you haven't yet, you will accept it. It will happen. Life doesn't always go like that. So in those,
and it's not always simple. Like
No.
the song "Magic," for example, is probably about what people might think it's about. It's about saying, this person is really awesome, and it's magic, and of course, certain parts of it have to change because that's life.
yes,
But not everything has to be black and white or clear cut, and that's okay. And it's not a question of you either really love someone or you really hate them, and it's like this. It's more nuanced than that, especially with the modern world's complications and traveling and all the stuff that comes to life, and illness and addiction and all that sort of thing. And
yeah.
so it's just saying, ultimately, there's magic between two people, no matter what anyone else thinks. and I think, and I hope that other people feel that in their own life.
Way, yeah.
Because I do.
That's the beauty of an album like this, is you make it so it's universal for people to be able to relate to in their own way and experience their life vicariously, feel like they're not alone, because these words and these melodies and this chemistry, like you say, of the band, that's what music is great. Whether you're in a club or in a field or dancing with 60,000 people to Calvin Harris, literally you're not alone.
Yeah.
Or you're listening to this record, which is obviously a different mood. But it has to be beneficial to the artist, right? Or there's no point in doing it. Or you're
Absolutely,
faking it.
it's complete. I write music as a diary. I write it to survive and to make sense of everything.
Yeah.
It's a gift that I'm so grateful for, more and more and more. I love it. I love my job. I can't believe I'm in my band, because otherwise I would be on a ferry just playing Elton John songs, which is great. I love Elton John,
And love fairies.
and I love ferries.
Yes.
But but for whatever reason, the universe gave me these other people that we have this chemistry that makes the Coldplay thing, and I'm psyched about it, and I love it, and I'm so happy to be able to say that I love it, because for a long time I didn't feel I was able to.
When did so let's talk about the writing process a little bit, because you write so many amazing songs and you have this catalogue of incredible shut up, but it's is there a particular time of day, or is there a particular mood? I know it sounds like a strange question, but I'm fascinated by the process and whether or not there are things that you can look back over your career and go, well, those are constants.
Yeah, about 11 p.m. In my phone, I'll write titles.
You start with titles first.
Often.
Yeah.
Often. I'll show you that.
Don't lose that.
Well,
Password protected, right?
Thing.
Password protected.
All this stuff.
Wow! Oh my lord! There's just reams and reams. We ever thought about actually creating different pages so you don't have to scroll down for 15 minutes?
Look, it's long. That's okay. So, a title, and then I think, I like that title. It fits with what I'm feeling. And then I'll just sort of wait, and then around 11 p.m. I'll see if I get called by whatever thing calls you.
So it is like that's kind of when it comes knocking.
Yeah. Or sometimes I'll just go and sit and, fish.
Yeah.
See, is there anything there today? And, there's thousands and thousands of voice memos that are just awful.
Just singing. Do you do it, like, do you sit in the back of the cab? Because as you know, I play music and I write songs. And
I'm aware.
And I sometimes find that when I'm kind of singing in a cab or whatever, I'm like, do you care? Like, if people are around and you get struck by inspiration, do you just...
No, I don't mind.
You throw it down?
Because I feel like if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be in this situation. I wouldn't have this life.
This is normally in between albums, by the way, when you kind of...
Yeah.
You normally grow your hair up, pull your hoodie up at that point, and you're unrecognisable anyway by that point. It's crazy Chris time.
But I was thinking, I was with my daughter yesterday, and I was thinking, God, if it wasn't for music, I wouldn't be with this person.
Amazing, isn't it?
Right now.
Amazing.
So I'm very, very...
awesome.
respectful of the thing I got given.
So great. Do you, and feel free not to answer this question, but I'm a dad as well, and I'll tell you straight up, my kids love music, and and it just plays a part. And I think for every kid at a certain age, it's obviously fascinating, but after a certain point whether it takes hold. Has it taken hold with your kids in some respects? Yeah,
very much so. Musical. She this shocked me the other day, because she was singing along to Dark Horse, Katy Perry's song. Then the rap came, Juicy J's rap, and she did it verbatim.
She just went in,
word for word. And we were all in the car actually, and I had to ask, who's Jeffrey Dahmer?
Because it was a lyrical reference point.
And I got explained to me
that
he was a cannibalistic, and I was like, that was the first time I felt like an old man. I was like,
did you go PMRC all on it, where you were just like, I think we need to put a sticker
on
it?
I have to be honest, I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this, that she's in the back rapping about him, like, what's amazing, Zane, and this is what I feel so excited about musically, is that
your forthcoming daughter's rap career.
Hey,
your forthcoming daughter's rap career.
This should be out next May. Is that the boundaries that we all grew up with have just gone.
Yeah, John.
Thank you so much. And it doesn't, and I love it. It's like, even when we were starting out, that it had to be defined, like, you play this kind of music, you play that kind of music. We don't really mix at the Brits.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's just everyone likes everything.
Yeah.
And that's just wonderful. You can reference anything.
It has wonderful elements to it. It would be nice to see a few people not mix at the Brits still. They were good times back in the day, weren't they? A little bit of fisticuffs here and there. It was a competitive time.
Yeah.
You were competitive.
Me?
Your band. Everyone was. Everyone was pushing.
No, we were just post-competitive.
Come on. A little bit competitive. There was a little bit of... Everyone was like, we're going to be the biggest band in the world. That's competitive in itself.
Yes, okay.
To a certain extent.
Fair point.
Yes. And you've become that.
Well... I don't...
Come on, we can say it now, can't we?
No, you can't.
Okay. All right.
I'll tell you the truth.
Okay, all right. I'm not saying you're bigger than anyone specifically. I'm saying, I'm willing to sign off on that.
The young... I think One Direction are the biggest band in the world.
We'll have that conversation in a few albums' time.
Well, they're great, man. Their songs are great.
Look, for the record, One Direction, I'm all for it. I think that
You're not allowed to say it because you're the king of cool.
I can so.
I'm allowed to say it because I'm the king of uncool. So I'm the man
somewhere
from
in the
Uncool.
middle, we're beige, and I'm going to say right now, I don't mind telling you that I think One Direction, for what they do, that's the natural disclaimer. natural disclaimer. For what they do, are brilliant. But I just,
I'm saying One Direction are brilliant. And I'm not kidding. I'm saying One Direction are brilliant. And I'm not kidding. You know why?
Why?
Because their songs are really good, and I don't think that any of them are going to go solo.
You're dreaming. They're so going solo.
No, I don't think they will. I think they appreciate their chemistry.
Who's your number one?
From watching their movie.
Because I play this with our kids all the time.
There is no number one.
There is a number one.
No.
Yes, there is.
There isn't.
Yes, there is. His name's Liam. Stand up.
You think he's the number one?
No, I think he's one of my favourites.
Well, that's very vague.
That's very vague.
But Zane.
For what they do.
Wait, Zane. Alright, for what they do. I'm saying, not for what they do, just as them being themselves.
Cosign. Got it.
I'm saying, from watching their movie, I felt like, okay, that's gonna be okay. They're
One
gonna
Direction,
last.
we love you. Carry on as per.
Yeah.
Can I play one of my favourite songs on the record?
One Direction or Coldplay?
Yours. This is called...
I'm not messing around,
I'm not messing around.
Look at
me.
I think you're teasing me.
Look at me. Like, I can straight face it. I love it. I do. I like him. I like pop music. Moving on. Oceans.
But I love Kendrick Lamar as well.
Well, come on. Now let's talk about Good Kid, Mad City. Best rap album of the last 10 years.
It was one of the very great albums of the last 10 years.
You just did it for what he does. You just did
Well,
it.
I'm saying, but then you're then slagging off all the other.
Oh, it's gone the other way now. How interesting. I will stand up and stand
for what
by
he
Kendrick.
does. No, that album's incredible.
Unbelievable. You know why? Because it holds your attention all the way through, like it's a movie. Like it has that sense of what Dre brought to the table, NWA brought to the table, which was like they gave you a sense of what was going on outside the recording studio as well as what was going on in.
Have you heard that girl SZA, who's on the same?
Yeah, on TDE. She's great.
She's incredible.
Man. We speak, when we do speak, we often sort of talk about other artists or whatever, and you're right across it. You really are a fan of popular music, aren't you? And
I like music.
I get it, but a lot of artists, for instance, Jake Bugg, who's amazing,
right,
grew up listening to one artist and that was it, right? Don McLean, that was his entire inspiration. Okay.
And is that American Pie? Don
McLean? And a lot of the times when you talk to musicians, especially when they're in the throes of making their record, they're not so connected because they need to stay on course.
I also think this comes with age a little bit. I think you have to be very careful when you're coming through who you admit that you like.
I want to talk about Oceans because I love this song, man.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, dude, this song is amazing. And what fascinated me about the production of this song is even though there's electronic pulse to it, it was played live, wasn't it? Will was hitting that on the thing.
Yeah.
Because you can hear you guys falling apart a little bit and coming back together. So it's electronic music with this really human feel to it.
Right.
Which I love about this.
Well, you've been very sweet. It means a lot.
Oh, this song is beautiful. I just want to listen to it for a second if that's okay.
Okay.
Wait for your call, love. Call never came. Ready to fall.
I'm just taken back to Parachutes when I hear you sing like that over acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Is that fair enough to say that?
I guess so.
I mean, when you think back...
It's not deliberate.
It's just who you are. I mean, but when you think back to an album like Parachutes and what you said at that time, which was probably your most personal record outside of this one, I think, listening to it lyrically.
Yeah.
Are you amazed that you made that record? Can you step aside from that process and listen to it like
I
we
don't
can?
listen to it, so...
You don't listen to your own music?
No.
Wow, ever?
Well, because I can't really learn from it.
Oh, wow, I get it now. So this is all part of the process of getting better and better. But you can't enjoy your own records.
Now this is another big change in my life. It's like now I can enjoy it if it comes on in a bar or wherever. I'm like, I like that. Whereas before I would have to leave or ask them to change it or something.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go back and listen to
it on.
And, polish the discs.
I always think that's one of the big sacrifices. You put all this love into your music, and then you give it to us. And we get to the thrill of listening to it or the heartbreak of listening to it. And most musicians never do.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. But when you make your own tracks, you listen to them millions of times.
You know
and
what?
they're in here all the time.
Can I tell you something that Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age said to me once?
Please.
I said to him, do you listen to your own records? He went, fuck yeah. He goes, we used to listen to Caius records before we went out on stage and played in Caius.
Oh, they're good records.
They're good records. The track listing, we've touched on that, of this, the order of this record, how it came together. Was it written that way with it in mind, or was it after you finished the body of work, you sat down and realised that it did say what you wanted to say in the time it took to say it and the direction it needed?
I just wanted it to finish on a message of unconditional love.
Wow, and it does.
And how you can have a better life if you can aspire to that. Not that we ever achieve it entirely, but if you try and learn to love everything that happens to you, everything, as being, I feel like I might be sounding a bit too new age, but I also really mean it.
Remember, you don't care anymore.
I don't care, but I don't want to embarrass you. You can qualify this for what he said, but it comes from I guess it's like a well, like I said, these writers like Rumi, Viktor Frankl, the Buddhist stuff is like everything that happens to you is what's supposed to be happening to you. So just relax. That's kind of what we tried to get to at the end of the record.
How did you feel when you finished that song? I mean, do you feel relieved to have gotten something like that out of your system? A song? Any song. Could have been on any album, but a personal song of that nature.
Well, I think these songs are very much my friends. And they have been for a couple of years as they've been coming. So how I feel very grateful for them. Because, like I said before, no one really knows where songs come from.
Yeah. And
for all the technique in the world, sometimes you just don't get any good ones.
Yeah.
And I feel like, wow, I got sent some really nice ones recently.
Probably the only real up-tempo moment on the album is called A Sky Full of Stars.
Yeah.
And this is your collaboration with?
Well, it was produced with Paul, but also with Tim Bergling, who goes under the name of Avicii.
Avicii, right. So let's talk about Avicii for a second, because for a lot of people, he falls under the category of EDM. And yet I've spoken to several people who've been in the studio with him who just say that he's incredible. Not to say that people who make EDM aren't, but you think of EDM as a sort of 100,000 people in a park kind of scenario.
Which is awesome.
Which is great if you're in the park, but, you know, he seems to be going deeper into, and this is a big cosign from you to work with someone like that. What was he like to work with?
Well, what happened was this: the rest of the band were, you know, because we now like share custody of the band, so we do 2 weeks together here, then we have a little rest, then we have 2 weeks together there, which is very healthy for the way we work. It means we really value our time together. So, in my brain, I was like, we don't have track 8. We don't have track 8, like the release, the euphoria, the like. Right. Okay, I understand what I'm supposed to be understanding, which is that life is beautiful in all its colours, even the darker ones. They're here for a reason. I get it, and so I was like, I wish I could get a song where I could express that I get it. Okay, and let's just celebrate the good moments while they're happening and be grateful for everything. And then I was at the piano, and this song just like fell out. Just came right through, and the rest of the band weren't here, so a bit naughtily I called Tim
straight up
and said, is there any way you could just come and help me demo this?
This is against custody rules here.
Well, this did cause a rumble for a day or so.
Let me guess, Will not happy?
No, everyone was happy, but I felt like, was I unfaithful?
With Avicii.
Did
I cheat on Coldplay with... That's a headline right there. Ignore all the rest of it. Chris Martin cheats on band with Avicii. That's a headline.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of false headlines recently, but this would be a real one. So you can write that if you like. I'll give you a quote. I did.
Good. So I'm here to talk about Chris Martin's separation from Coldplay, trial separation as he continues to have some torrid affair with Avicii.
It would be nice to have a true story.
Is he a gentle lover?
What?
Is he a gentle lover?
musically, Tim is very,
Thanks
very
for qualifying music.
sweet guy.
Musically?
He's very lovely and very talented, and he just made these great piano sounds and synth sounds, and that top note he does with, and Johnny's in there as well. So, because we had the idea of, wouldn't it be cool if Johnny was doing one of those EDM type sounds? So it's got a bit of emotion in it.
Yeah.
But this took ages to finish. This song. Ages.
Why?
Because we're trying to
Blend the two.
two worlds.
You know what's funny though is when you listen to the piano. Let me just reload this for a second. When you listen to the piano, this is a very Coldplay piano line because you wrote it. It naturally comes out of you. It's what you do. It's your phrasing. It's the way you play your rhythm. I'm thinking, God, this is straight up modern day big room house music.
Right.
And it made me think actually, and you're gonna start, but you guys kind of are part of the foundation of EDM in a weird way when you think about some of the bigger songs you've had and the tempo they are, 125 beats per minute, that kind of four on the floor nature.
Well, I know that like the riff from Clocks does sounds good in EDM and Viva, it's because I love that kind of music.
Yeah.
I love this quiet, heartbreaky songs, but I love the euphoria, the togetherness. It's like life is so scary. There's planes going missing, there's people getting shot, there's wars going on. It's like anytime you can get thousands of people in a field jumping up and down, that is the most beautiful feeling.
Yes.
Or when the Stones came on at Glastonbury.
Yeah.
And I was there, I was with Apple and Moses, my kids, and were you there?
No.
And not only the main field, but the side fields were packed. And I was like, man, this is
euphoric.
Awesome. This
is it. I love it, man. I think this is a great record. I think it's a great collaboration because I think that there's enough.
He produced it. It's a move for him into producing other people's things.
It's a good move.
And Paul did some as well. I got to give credit where credit is due.
When was the last time you talked about Glastonbury and the Rolling Stones? So obviously that was one of the times. But do you get a chance to kind of go out and seek that euphoria and? Do you go clubbing? Do you go to festivals? Do you try and put yourself in that position?
Absolutely. The last, we went to see Kanye the other day.
Yeah.
Well, that was a few months ago, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of people.
Yeah.
I went to see Justin Bieber.
Good show.
Yeah.
Went with the
now
kids?
That's someone who needs a fill. It's like that guy is very talented. Or he needs a Will or a Johnny. It's like. It's other people go through much crazier stuff in the world. Let's qualify it. But a young guy like that needs nice people around him to just because there's a lot coming at him. There's a lot, and especially now the noise that people throw back at you is very loud, and so I feel for him because he takes a lot of shit. Not to condone all, but he's a teenager. He's a teenager.
Yeah.
I was getting booed off my school stage at that age, or just below that age, literally.
And
thank goodness it wasn't being filmed for YouTube because
Yeah, but that's true because nowadays it would have been. Someone would have had a phone up.
Oh my God.
And you'd be sitting at home going, well, that's it. My career is over on my first performance at school because the audience that I know, that are the only people I can relate to, think I suck.
I was in a band. When I was 16, which Phil was in as well, actually.
What were they called?
I can't say because I realise in retrospect it's quite a racist term.
Okay, fine, let's move on.
We were called the Rockin' Honkies.
Right.
I didn't come up with the band name.
Right.
And I didn't know what honky meant.
Right.
So I was like, sure, I'll be the piano player. I was the piano player.
That's a honky-tonk thing.
So I was a piano player. It was a rhythm and blues band at school. And it
sounds horrendous.
But what it was very educational because it was this guy, Rob, in the year above us, was switching us on to Otis Redding and James Brown, all this amazing soul music. Anyway, I was a piano player, and one time he said, "You've got to do a piano solo in Mustang Sally."
Right.
And I was like, "Sure, I'll try that." And I had pressed the wrong button on the keyboard. So when you press the keyboard and have arpeggio, it goes with
yeah.
So I was doing this solo, but I didn't know I had the arpeggio button on, so it sounded like Van Halen or something. And at the same time, I was dressed like a cowboy. So,
oh my god!
so
I'm on YouTube.
it's like,
I wish.
now,
I could.
poor Justin Bieber, that would be all over the internet. But with me, luckily, it was just a rumour around school for a couple of days. Like, what a knob.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's good material. We had talked before we came in here, and we said, well, let's talk about this during the interview. So I want to bring it back up,
Okay.
which was the balance between doing what you love to do and what you're dedicated to doing in your life,
Right.
which has allowed you the freedom to be able to raise your family and provide,
Right.
be happy,
Yeah.
or at least strive for happiness
Mhm.
through your art. But at what point sometimes can it start to have a negative impact on the time that you get to spend with your family, or get the balance right? Is it hard when you are a band as successful as you are, but obviously your family is more important to you than anything else?
I don't think the word hard is the right one, because it's a great joy and it's a great blessing and a privilege. I think that the thing you talked about of like being on stage with 60,000 people is a very specific kind of energy, and I think that it's sometimes, well, I think for a long time I didn't have the right help in how to reconcile those two people within me, because that they're both me. And this is why a lot of frontmen have problems in their personal life. It's because there's this thing that you do that's only about 20 other people do, which is amazing, but which does something to your brain which is odd. You know,
On an ego level?
on an ego level, yeah, but you're also responsible for, you know, lots of people have paid money, they've come from work, they've come from school, they've come from,
Yeah.
you know, like, okay, well, we've got to be good here because, you know, people are expecting a show, and so there's a responsibility, and then there's a euphoria, then there's a sort of fear when something's going wrong, and you're, you know, if you're on stage in a stadium, for example, and something breaks, it's like that's a weird energy that's going through your body, because you've got to try and like handle it. And these are very different skill sets to just writing a song. And so if you're blessed enough to be doing that, and then coming in and out of real life that everyone else is going through, you have to work very hard not to be a real dick. You know. Because you just naturally are a bit of a diva in certain ways. Not that, and in certain ways you need to be, because you need to make sure your voice works, and your, you know, because otherwise people will be like, I just paid this much money and spent 5 hours driving and 6 hours waiting and
you're too
standing behind this.
You're too scared to demand the best. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and he's clearly not into it.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do that. But before I met these kind of teachers that I've been blessed enough to find, and started reading some of this work, I was just a bit lost with, you know, which is the real me. But now I understand that they both are. But you have to just, I'm trying to learn how to switch between them in a more gentle way.
Have you been able to talk to any one of those 20 at times, to be able to gain some kind of inspirational wisdom that you talked about?
Yeah.
Who's been helpful?
Well, my two key peers are really Bono and Michael Stipe, and from REM. And well, Michael's obviously retired, but he was very sweet. They've both been very, very kind to me from the beginning, which I can't tell you how special that is.
What's one of the best bits of advice you've been given?
By them?
Yeah. Well, in fact, you know what? Let's blow it open. By anybody. What do you recall as being?
No. Well, the first thing is that after our first album, Bono's advice was respect the chemistry between you, and if you make an album as down tempo as your first one, I think I might fall asleep. So maybe pick it up a bit for the second one. And Michael,
Good advice.
the first time he like took me aside was I was messing around with the melody of a song called The Scientist in concert, and he said, you can do that, but people have come a long way to hear the song they like, and maybe just sing it. And so that's why that's sort of,
Maybe don't go like rock and honkies. Maybe just.
well, yeah, that's why I think we're very much in the school of, you know what, this is how it became popular, so this is how we'll play it for the most part.
Yeah.
And I feel comfortable about that. But there's countless times when I've just been like, is this normal? You know.
Are you capable to give advice to others now? Say someone from a band who was, say one of One Direction came up to you and said, I'm really struggling with all this. It's really difficult for me, and we've established that you have a genuine fondness for them.
Right.
Would you feel comfortable sitting down and talking to one of them and giving them some advice on
Yeah,
what
well,
you've learned?
Harry has come to a couple of our shows, and he's a sweet guy. See, I think I probably said the same thing about chemistry. I can't really remember. I was too enamoured with his haircut.
It's quite a haircut.
I was like this. I'm pretty sure I was a straight guy before. Getting a sort of
It's so
hot flush.
curly and it's just unbelievable. It smells so good. It's just so shiny.
What's
It's like
going
full
on?
of body. Like, what do you use? Can I touch it? Shampoo. Like, just tell
Yeah.
me, what's your secret? So, throughout this record, over 9 songs, we get an idea of what you've learned and are still learning, and of the letting go and of the embracing of
Well, it's
everything.
like a new approach to life.
Yeah.
Because I needed to change it.
You said earlier on that you wanted a song at the end to be an unconditional message of love.
Right.
A dedication of complete unconditional love. This song, Oh,
Yeah.
is... You said I've been very kind. This is just a stunning record.
Thanks, man.
And lyrically, you've just nailed it.
Thank you.
Flock of birds hovering above, just a flock of birds.
When was the last time you listened to this?
It's how you think of love, and
It's a little tricky for me to listen to.
look up to the sky.
Well, you've put yourself on the line. You've made that record.
Mm.
You know.
I'm very proud of that message, though, because I don't want to get too personal because of the media stuff being as it is, but that's just to me saying you're amazing. You've got to be amazing, and I need to like improve a bit. Yeah.
It's hard for me to listen. It's hard for anybody to listen. You killed me with this record.
Yeah.
You know.
Thanks, man. But let me talk about the sneaker line I'm working on.
Well, you are in LA. They offer.
After this bit, there's a secret track.
I know. I want to talk about that.
Okay.
3 or 4 minutes on, and we go back to where we started again with this lovely ambient piece that Dan created, and a vocal at the end. Doesn't sound like you.
No, that's me and Apple, my daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. And her friend Mabel.
Can you just talk us through the recording of them? How was it?
Okay, this is very funny. And my son Moses is on this other track that we're doing for a while. It is with Target. We did some extra tracks for the store Target because they're one of the only places that sell CDs in the world. So we're like, sure,
Yeah.
great. But those tracks will become available, in about 6 months, and he's on the reprise of the other one. And the reason they're on there is because it means so much to me, but also because when they come in the studio, they bring such a funny energy, and they're so used to it
Yeah.
that I'm like, oh, it just makes me laugh. That the day we did
Well, they're like Turn my headphones up a little bit on the left.
Well, this is... No, I'm not kidding. So really the first part of O is called Fly On, and the second part is called O, but we're done with the double titling. And so, you know, it's like, this is a very important message for me at the end of the record, like, don't ever let go. It's what my dad used to say to me, never give up. And it's what hopefully I'm saying to myself or to anyone, is like, you know, don't... For example, we've had some friends recently who've killed themselves or gone really down the wrong thing only because of not having the right people around them, which is so sad. And so for me, like, having my baby essentially singing that is very powerful to me. So it's quite a selfish inclusion. The rest of the record is meant for everybody else, but that little bit is for me because that's what we'll have at the beginning of our show, and it's like, it gets me, when I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, life's great.
She's a professional in the studio. One take?
I'm sorry, yes.
One take?
In the studio, so you wanted the story. So she was with her friend Mabel. You know, they flit in and out in the studio because there's a room upstairs with some, you know, toys and stuff, which they kind of prefer. But I said, they were listening. She said, "Oh, what's this, Dad? I like this." And I said, "Oh, it's called Oh. Do you want to? What if we put a mic up? Will you and Mabel maybe sing it?" Sure. No big deal at all. They don't. I think because they're so used to pop stars being around the house or whatever.
Singing is just...
It doesn't... They don't understand really that Jay-Z is not just a person. They just think he's a person, and he's really good at rapping.
Yeah. Well, and they're right.
And they are right. Or whoever it is, you know. And so the studio for them is the same thing. They've grown up every day. Like, they don't...
It's
so it's
Jay.
just fun.
It's Uncle Jay.
So it's just fun. So we put an SM58, and I said, "Can you just sing this with me?" And we all sang it together. And then they got bored and left.
So you only get one take. They're like Frank Sinatra.
They did 2 takes. Yeah.
2 takes.
This is my favourite piece of music we've ever made.
Let's turn it up then.
And then it has a sound on the end by Madion.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. There's a big...
You just hired him to do that one?
That.
That's it?
Yep.
Did you ask him for that? Can you just give me a...
We did a day with Madion. He's amazing.
Yeah, brilliant.
On a track that it was too up-tempo for this. And then at the end we were working on Always in My Head, actually. And he said, "Oh, I've got a sound that would end that really nicely."
He's clever, isn't he? Just wanted that one feature.
I was like, that's brilliant.
They're hard to make those.
We had some amazing little cameos. Like there's a bass drum on a song called True Love that Timbaland did, and then there's a sound on...
These are all from sessions that you've done with them and gone, well,
Yeah,
we'll just
like,
take that...
Occasionally you just have like a day playing with someone. And that's what I'm saying. It's like we're so privileged. We get to
that's fun.
Mess around with all these people, and yeah.
Who else? Anyone else we've missed on the record that shows up? Paul
I think
McCartney
a little
eating
bit
a carrot,
of
or
Mike Dean, who works with Kanye a lot.
Yeah.
John Hopkins, who we've done lots of stuff with now. I don't think there's anybody else.
I saw today that you guys have announced you're going to do 6 shows.
Yeah, that's our tour, yeah.
By the way, these are called the intimate shows at like the Royal Albert Hall.
Well, that's the biggest.
That's the biggest, yeah. And it's amazing, I think, that you've made a record that will suit that environment, you know, that it's not going to feel like you've made this huge, all-encompassing, massive statement of a sonic statement of a record in terms of, and you're like, no, we just want to play small clubs. It actually makes sense. Is that kind of it? As far as touring goes, what's your thoughts about touring?
For the time being.
Yeah.
For the time being.
Is that a decision based on the well-being of the individuals in the band, or on the themes of the record and how you feel about replaying
I think it? To me, it would seem like the wrong thing to try and oversell this album in a big place. Some of these songs will fit really well in there one day, but at the moment we just want to be a little bit self-indulgent and kind of play it as a piece with some other ones around it, but in a smaller. The Albert Hall is big. I'm
joking. It's going to be
you're
amazing.
right. It's massive, but
it's not Emirates Stadium.
No, but it is big. But that's the biggest one, and we chose that because we can play it in the round.
Right.
And so yeah, that for the moment that'll be it.
Do you think, and this might be one of the toughest questions I've asked you, I hope you don't mind. Do you think
you can ask me anything, man?
Do you think you'll ever be able to play a song like "Oh" live?
Yeah.
You do.
We did already.
You've done that song already.
Yeah, we did. This is what we really wanted to do. I'll tell you the truth, is we wanted to do this 360 tour. Not quite as big as U2's, but we, with our friend Misty, in fact Phil and Misty made this theatre. We built a theatre inside a soundstage, like a film stage, where they shot The Wizard of Oz actually. And it was this circular thing with a roof that goes over the top, like a mini Albert Hall, all screens. And then we play in the middle, and then about 900 people sit around, and then there's like stars hanging up, and then these people called Bison, these two great guys, helped us make all this beautiful content. And so we made this immersive concert, and we wanted to tour that, but it costs $4 million every time we want to build it, so we couldn't tour it. So instead we made a film of it, and we've done that. We filmed that. So we did 4 shows.
So it cost $4 million to make this film.
It cost about $4 million, yeah.
Wow.
But we had sponsorship and
to make it easier and
to make it work, and that's just the truth. So we would like to have toured it, but we can't afford it.
So what next?
Well, I feel just very grateful for every day on Earth. I really do. So I don't know what's next.
Do you feel better now you've made this record?
I just feel grateful to be alive. I don't. I'm between you and me and all the people who listen to this. Between all of us, I'll say that I'm very, very proud of it. And I'm so proud of our gang. And I feel so grateful for that brotherhood. And I'm grateful for all the people around us, our families, and basically I'm doing an Oscar speech, but a real one. So am I happy that it's done? Yes, because it's exactly what we wanted to do, which has never happened. It did happen on Rush of Blood to the Head. That was exactly what we wanted to do. And every other time we got to about 80 or 90%, except on X and Y, where we got to about 65 of what we were really aiming for. I
love the record. I've really enjoyed this,
Really?
Yeah.
Thanks, man. I know I didn't go on a rant, but
what would be good is if you just pretended to walk out now, storm out. I
have to say the reason I wanted to do this was because I loved the Kanye interview.
Me too.
Because that guy is amazing.
Oh,
and I think he's misunderstood by the people who only look on the surface. So I understand what he's talking about.
He's honest.
He's honest. And I understand what he means. My English teacher once said to me in a school report, he said, your brain is like a bran tub, which is a thing that used to be in Victorian fairs, where you'd have a big barrel, they'd fill it with bran and put like a clementine or an apple, like some nice things in there, and you had like 20 seconds to put your hand in and rummage around, and you might find something or you might not. And that's what my English teacher said. My brain was like basically a load of crap with some gems in it. And I feel like if you can get past Kanye's brand, that guy's got more gems than anybody. The end.
Thanks, man.
Alright, is that it?